Another countdown to Outbound. I'm Mark Hunter. I've got my cup of coffee. You see it right here in my hand. In just a moment, we're going to have Amy Franko up. We're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about sales. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Outbound coming up. So, hey, let's roll the video. Let's get rolling. Welcome to the official Countdown to Outbound studio. How you doing, Amy?
I am great. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing it. Man, I've either had too much coffee or I've had not enough, but I can't talk this morning. So what else is new, right? No, it's great. It's good. It's good. Hey, what is going on in your world? And more importantly, the question I love asking people is, hey, we're kind of coming out of this pandemic. Hopefully, fingers crossed. What are you seeing happening out there? What are you seeing from a sales perspective?
I am seeing a lot of optimism from a sales perspective. So if I look at the first quarter and a half of this year, it's hard to believe we're already almost up on the first half of the year. The need for sales skill development and really re-energizing teams to take advantage of opportunities, it really has never been greater. It has been a great start to the year. So I see a lot of optimism. I see a lot of positivity, and I see the people that are really wanting to go after it and make it happen. They're doing it.
Now, you come from a background of what I'll call big iron. You know the term big iron, right? Yep. Now, some of you are saying, what's big iron? Okay, big iron is kind of what IBM was referred to many, many years ago. But anyway, complex sales, big business. How are you seeing that enterprise, those guerrilla companies adapting to sales in this new world?
Yep. I've also heard IBM, the acronym standing for I'm by myself, which I think has served people well in the pandemic. a little foreshadowing.
I've got one more for that, where it stands for I've been moved.
Yes, I've heard that one too. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So the question, big iron, complex sales, big companies. It's been interesting because I work with firms who are in that complex selling space, and what they're having to find themselves do is sort of reorient a little bit to where their decision makers and influencers are. They are having to more people, more involved, because I think there's a little bit of risk aversion, if you will, in some of these big decision making processes that's still there. So I'm seeing a little bit of that, but again, I'm seeing the sellers and sales organizations who are really committed to being in that space be successful because they're doing the work of building the relationships and finding the opportunities.
You know, it's interesting. Gartner Group says that there's 8 decision makers in every sale. And if you go to the enterprise level and above, it's probably 80 or 800. How do you, when you're kind of flying solo, when you're kind of trying to pull it all together, how do you marshal that many resources together to be able to get a decision?
There's an exercise that I've been taking my clients through on that exact topic. And I like to think of things as ecosystems. So our relationships and our networks sit in ecosystems. And it's the same thing for any big opportunity that we're working on. So there's this exercise I've been taking my clients through where we look at all the different groups within the client. They're decision makers, advocates, centers of influence, anybody within that client that they can think of that has some kind of influence or decision-making authority. And what's eye-opening as we go through that exercise is where they need to fill in some gaps and where there's holes. And it gets them thinking more systematically versus just, let me just jump into LinkedIn, or let me just, see who I might need to be building those relationships with. Let me take a little bit more of a systematic approach and then fill in the gaps. And that's helped them kind of marshal their thought processes so they could marshal the resources once they've gotten through that process.
Well, and many times I've found when you're selling to that level, the real decision makers, they may have a LinkedIn profile, but they're not looking at it. They're not checking it. I mean, they got more important things to worry about. So, I mean, trying to find out who these people are and all those players, that is an act unto itself.
Yep.
And, now let me ask you this question. Are you seeing the selling process becoming longer in terms of the time it takes, or is it becoming shorter because of the pandemic?
My personal experience over the last 12 months is that it was longer. So I had a number of opportunities that just got put on pause. They came back around this year, but they took a good 12, sometimes even 18 months on a few of the really bigger ones that I was working on. So that's been my experience. But I will say I have seen shorter sell cycles in some of the industries I'm working with, where some of my clients are taking on large, like capital projects that require materials, and they need to pull those resources together and marshal those resources. So depending on how urgent the projects are that the clients are working on, I've seen some very urgent projects that have caused my clients to actually have shorter sell cycles. But I think the irony is sometimes when we think the sell cycle is shorter, we need to question, do we have all the right people at the table?
I tell you what, you just had a drop the mic moment there, because I mean, trying to figure out the sales cycle, how long it's going to take right now, it's harder than ever, because I mean, like you said, there are some deals that are moving through very fast and others that are moving through very slow. I guess maybe the thing that I'm finding is that whatever the norm was is not the norm now. And we really don't know what the norm is. But the one thing I'm finding is companies more than ever are just focused on their top one or two priorities. If it's not one of their top one or two priorities,
yeah,
it's hard to get them to move.
Well, and along that line right there, most of the conversations I'm having with my clients, and then in turn theirs, is they are still only looking maybe a year to 18 months out in terms of their strategic priorities, because they're saying, you know what, there's still so many unknowns here. Doing a 3 to 5 year strategic plan is not a great use of our time right now, because things could look different, next quarter, next half. So I've personally been hearing and experiencing that part of it when it comes to the priorities.
So what you're saying is all that time that we spent in 2019 developing the 2020 plan was really a waste of time?
I'd say so, and maybe if we're the optimist, we take the positive spin on that. It's like, can you pull anything from that plan and reuse it, but set aside all the other stuff. Don't anticipate being able to depend on it. It's kind of like sellers taking a look at their pipeline, right? Which is, a nice, our whole conversation about outbound. When you're looking at your pipeline and you have deals that are just kind of stuck there, you can't depend on those. You have to take the ownership to keep filling your pipeline, because you don't quite know what's going to happen with some of those. Wow.
You again, you hit on something. I mean, we have to own our own pipeline. And, that's that's the premise that Outbound was founded on. And, of outbound selling. And thank goodness, because we love outbound. I always say, do you want to be a rain barrel or a rain maker? And wow. Here's something that I find very interesting. With the economy kind of heating up, and I'd say right now it's an optimistic economy. People are anticipating things, and we haven't really seen the real GDP numbers yet. We don't really know. The jobs numbers have been a lot less than what we expected, but there's tremendous optimism. But what I think this is saying is that people are almost saying, well, the phone's going to ring. The phone's going to ring, and I'm going to get all this business. All this business is going to come to me. And I go, boy, wow, you cannot. That's being the rain barrel. That's not selling. That's taking orders.
Yep.
And even that's being generous,
Yeah. And I think that that mindset takes the responsibility out of you're basically taking the responsibility out of your hands and putting it into the marketplace, or putting it into someone else's hands, where we got to change that thinking. And what can I control? What can I basically take command of in my day? And the efforts that we put into our outbound relationship building efforts, we can control that. But you can't eliminate your responsibility in that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I totally agree. So if you're a salesperson out there and you're looking at your sales pipeline and it's just not where it's going to be, what you say are the 2 or 3 things they need to you need to get doing now?
Yeah. I think the first thing, and this is something that I did when the pandemic started, Mark, I did a kind of just a brutally honest review of my pipeline. What are the things that just are not going to come in? What are the things that are stalled? And I think that strikes fear in the heart of a lot of sellers, and frankly, in organizations where you're required to have 2 and 3x of your pipeline in your reviews every week. But a brutally honest review of your pipeline is always a great place to start. So that's probably number one. I'd say number two is look at your best existing customers first. And if you don't, and if you shouldn't just know them in your head, are they down on paper? Are they in your CRM? Do you know who they are? And what strategies, what game plan can you put in place to identify new opportunities within those existing customers? So those are probably 2 places that I would be starting.
Boy, I tell you what, you hit on something there, because a lot of salespeople, and we've all done it at one time or another. We keep stuff in our pipeline just to make it look like it's full.
Oh, totally.
Or it might be we keep it in there to keep our boss happy. I mean, yeah. I remember when I was in corporate roles, I would keep stuff in my pipeline all the time. And when I moved into a leadership role, it was one of the first, most obvious things I would nail people on. Is this thing has been sitting here. This thing is rotting. This thing is stinking up, but no, it's good. They're going to make a decision any day now. Yeah. Right. Wrong again. Yeah. It really does amaze me, the number of salespeople who also don't have a CRM system. And you drop the 3 magic letters, CRM system, or maybe they have a CRM system, but they really don't use it because they feel it's the gotcha police. Man. Wow.
Yeah. And I think depending on the size and complexity of the organization that you sit in, I've worked with clients anywhere from, small organization, we don't have a CRM, all the way up to, we're using the major players. So I've kind of run the gamut, but I think the common conversation is what's the quality level of the data for your opportunities, and are you using it, or will you use it as something that helps you in your day-to-day, like to plan and be strategic, versus just being sort of a history lesson? You just put the notes in there, but you don't ever use it.
Oh, I got to share a funny story. I was invited to sit in on a sales meeting last week. And these were about 10 salespeople, pretty strong salespeople from around the country for a particular company. And it was a sales meeting with the VP of sales. And they were going through the business. And one of the people, who's one of the stronger people, says, well, yeah, I normally kind of just update my CRM system at the end of the week. That's when I kind of put all the stuff in. Huh. And it was interesting. The VP of sales didn't even say a thing. It was like, oh, no, it's fine. And it's like, what you talk about history, you talk about, oh, okay, so it's just an archival place. That's not using your CRM system, right? Man.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I agree. So, and then it's like, I find for myself, so I do keep notes in my CRM. It is my place to go and, just kind of put my thoughts, and I will log the major highlights of my conversations. But if I've waited an entire week, it's gone.
It is. One funny story, I was working with a Fortune 25 company, huge company. They were so complex that they created their own CRM system. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So this thing was so complicated, it was unbelievable. That division I was working with, they freely admitted, they said, yeah, we have the mothership CRM system, but this is the one we use. And they were actually using Zoho, which, I mean, big shout out to Zoho. This was a scrappy division, probably about 100 million in sales. So to this company, it was chump change. But they refused to use the mothership CRM system because it was just so. They said if we used it, we'd have to hire probably 2 people just to manage it.
Well, yeah, and I think you nailed that. Like, why do we make things harder than they need to be? just, and I big
organization wants it that way.
Right. In big organizations, there's absolutely a level of complexity, but the more simple that we could make something, and not just for ourselves, but part of our job is to make things simpler for our customers too. They have so much on their plate, so much decision making. I was with a client last week and we were just doing some implementation planning, and she said to me, she's like, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And I'm like, yeah, let's keep it simple. My job is to help keep it simple.
I like that. I mean, sales is not rocket science. I mean, it is amazing how people, I made the upper half of my class possible. Now, I don't know about you, but I mean, to me, sales is really, it's finding out what the needs are of the customer and helping them fill them. That's it. I mean, it's not rocket science, but you're right. People can overcomplicate things. Hey, talk to us a little bit, because we're going to run out of time here in a bit.
Yeah.
Outbound. Great.
Yes.
Great to have you there. And what are you going to be talking about?
I'm so excited for Outbound. I mean, obviously we were going to be together last year and that didn't happen. So this has been, my 2 years in the making to be at Outbound. So I can't wait to be there. So I have an elite session on Friday, and I'm going to be dividing the time. So I'm going to spend time with prospecting strategies that I use myself that work. So I'm going to be talking through some of those. I'm going to talk through some closing strategies that have been working. So very, very practical, and then allowing people to, as they would like, to bring opportunities that they would like to do some spot coaching on. So you bring what your challenges are, and let's help you move forward in your territory or in your deal. So that's what I'm going to be covering.
Great. And that's in the elite session, which is live on Friday. And of course, if you're in person, you can get the elite ticket, or you can get that by way of the virtual package too. So, hey, a lot of people, with really the mask mandate and all that kind of stuff kind of falling away, a lot of people grabbing tickets and getting it. What's your code for people to get a discount?
My code is Amy100.
That's AMY100. So, hey, use that. And let's see, it's June 15th through the 18th is for the live part of it. Actually, it's all live. But if you want to get the virtual, it actually starts on the 13th and runs through the 18th. And there's multiple levels of opportunities for you to participate, because really you do participate. Outbound, I mean, it is Cirque du Soleil takes over a rock show to disrupt a sales meeting. When you consider there's 2 years ago at the last one, I remember Anthony and myself, we were out on the loading dock 2 days before the event starts. And there were three tractor trailers. That was the staging just for Outbound. I mean,
I would expect no less from you guys.
I mean,
come on, just for this alone, you've got to come join us in person.
Yeah, I mean, it is truly an amazing event. So anyway, hey, we're going to have to wrap things up. Hey, people want to get in touch with you, but hey, don't run away, people, because after we roll a video here, we do an after the show, which is always kind of what people say is the best part. So, hey, if people want to get in touch with you, what's your website?
Website is amyfranko.com. And you are also welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me ahead of Outbound. I've had quite a few of you reach out, so please don't hesitate.
That is outstanding. That's cool. Hey, so what we're going to do is we are going to jump over and roll kind of a video, but then we're going to be back with the after the show. So don't run away. I told you that'd be a quick video.
That is a quick video.
Hey, welcome back to the After the Show. Okay, so you live in Columbus, Ohio. Does that make you a Buckeye?
I am a lifelong Buckeye. I grew up in Cleveland. My family still lives there. I did not go to Ohio State, though. I went to University of Dayton. I'm a Dayton Flyer, but I've lived in Columbus now for almost 25 years. I can't believe it.
Clearly, you didn't go to Ohio State because you pronounced it wrong, because you didn't say the Ohio State.
I know,
So,
right?
yeah.
I get that all the time, but you know what? Living in Columbus, you do become an Ohio State fan by osmosis.
You do, but a Dayton Flyer. Now you're going to have to Google that. You're going to have to understand, why did they become the Flyers? There's a story behind that, but you'll have to Google that to find out. So anyway, so hey, man, I didn't realize this. You're at you were at IBM and Lenovo.
Yep.
I used to live in Connecticut, so I used to drive past Armonk, New York. This is dating all of us here. Armonk, New York, way too many times. All my neighbors worked for IBM.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and then when they spun off and created Lenovo, I did a lot of work with Lenovo for a number of years.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. It was, I loved working at IBM, and I spent a couple years at Lenovo, and it was, it was an interesting, cool experience. And it was a launching pad for what I do today. I'm so grateful for the time I had at both of those places.
Well, the skill set of working, I mean, I came out of a big company also, and the skill set of sales that you'll learn, because big companies really do invest in you. They invest in you so much, and that skill set stays with you for life. So that's good. So
the interesting thing that I've learned is kind of this difference between what I consider to be more enterprise selling versus more entrepreneurial selling. And I never really made that connection until I was researching the book and researching The Modern Seller, and just some of the differences between what it means to be a seller in this big, complex enterprise environment versus being a more, I guess I'll call it a scrappier entrepreneurial seller, where you don't necessarily have all those resources, and you're selling yourself, especially in those early stages, if you don't have team.
Yeah, and as a mutual friend of ours, Jill Conrath wrote the book Agile Selling, which is really what it is. Yeah. So anyway, hey, this has been great catching up with you. We do have to sign off from the after the show. Then we get to the real after the show.
There's another after the show. All right.
Sorry, fans, you're not going to be able to participate. Hey, thanks so much. Countdown to Outbound, outboundconference.com. Tickets, Amy 100. Amy, great talking with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.